Official statement, systematic suppression of YouTube channel, Plop Andrei. The recent blocking of monetization on my YouTube channel, Plop Andrei, is a direct continuation of a long-standing campaign led by the FSB network within America. This is not a technical oversight, it is a coordinated effort to ensure that I, Plop Andrei, am financially, morally, and psychologically destroyed. This is not the first time this network has targeted my income streams. By blocking my YouTube channels and Google AdSense, the American intelligence services, working in tandem with the FSB KGB network in Moldova, Romania, and Poland, aim to isolate me and strip me of all resources. The Polygraph Challenge, reference April 1, 2025. As stated on April 1, 2025, I am ready to prove my innocence and expose this corruption. I am prepared to pass a polygraph test in any NATO member country, excluding Romania, Turkey, and Poland. Or in Switzerland, Austria, Armenia, or Japan. The polygraph will prove the following. I have never worked for, and do not work for, any intelligence service. No one has, or ever had, the right to film me, record me, or sign documents on my behalf. I am not a member of any organization, including Freemasonry. I am not a gay man, not a terrorist, and I have never had children or owned secret property. I have never earned money from clandestine or so-called volunteer activities. The Americans in the intelligence services who work for the Russians are, honestly, terrified of me taking this test. If I pass, the entire network, from the United States to Moldova and Romania, will be arrested for espionage and corruption. Their current strategy is pretty clear. First, there's financial strangulation. They use algorithms to kill my views and block monetization on YouTube and Facebook just to prevent me from earning a living. Next comes character assassination. They're waiting for the Russians or the Moldovan network to provoke me into a situation they can film so they can frame me as a so-called Russian spy. And finally, institutionalization. They want to lock me in a psychiatric hospital or prison just to keep the truth from being revealed. They want to force me into a position where I have no choice but to flee to Russia or Turkey. If that happens, they'll claim they caught a spy and use it to get career promotions. But in reality, they're the ones working for the FSB, and they're using my financial ruin to cover up their own crimes. I am not your spy. I am not your asset. I'm an analyst who knows too much, and I'm ready to prove it on a polygraph today. Update, April 1st, 2025, 15:47. Plop Andrei here. One of these situations will happen. Either I, Plop Andrei, will pass the polygraph test in front of the FBI and several ambassadors from NATO member countries, and after I pass the polygraph test, it will come out that I have never worked for any intelligence service and that no one has had, and does not have, the right to film me, record me, or speak on my behalf. And obviously, the entire FSB KGB network in Moldova, Romania, Poland, and the United States will be arrested. Or, the second situation, the FBI will do absolutely everything possible to make sure I do not pass the polygraph test, and now, with the help of the FSB KGB network in Moldova, Romania, and Russia, they hope to lock me up as quickly as possible. The Americans will help the Russians so that I never earn money from social networks such as YouTube or Google AdSense, even though, before the war between Ukraine and the Russians started, there were tens of thousands of Russians who earned from Google AdSense. And, the FSB KGB network in Romania and the USA blocked my Facebook pages, a Facebook page that had over 95,000 followers and which still exists today and has about 80,000 followers. But the Americans still don't want to give it back to me. That page brought me money, and also YouTube channels that brought me money too. And obviously, the Americans will continue to do this. They will destroy me financially, and the FSB KGB network in Moldova, Romania, Poland, and obviously Russia will destroy me morally and physically. When I say that I am not a member of any organization, and I am talking about all forms of organizations on this earth, it means that I am not a member of any organization, and to prove this, I am ready to pass a polygraph test in any NATO member country and on any day. Oh yes, I had forgotten that the FSB KGB network in America is still waiting for the FSB KGB network in Moldova, Romania, and Russia to save their neighborhood so that they can continue to be promoted and escape prison. So it's true, Americans. That's why to this day you are afraid that I will pass the polygraph test, and you will continue to do anything to escape prison, and for that, you have to lock me in prison, psychiatric, and continue what you have done until now, destroy me financially and morally. If the Americans are afraid of me passing the polygraph test, then I am ready to pass the polygraph test in any NATO member country, except Romania, Turkey, and Poland. And I am also ready to pass the polygraph test in Switzerland, Austria, Armenia, Japan. Why is the FSB KGB network in America, the Americans and the intelligence services working for the Russians, afraid of me passing the polygraph test? Because the next day, the FSB KGB network from America and from Poland and Romania, Romanians and Poles working for the Russians, will be arrested. The FSB network in America is afraid that I will pass the polygraph test. You who work for the FBI, why are you afraid that I will pass the polygraph test? Are you afraid of being found out as working for the Russians? If the Americans still do not want me to pass the polygraph test, and they also did not ask me if what I wrote is true or not, and at the same time the Americans collaborate with the Romanians and Moldovans who work for the FSB, this means only one thing: that the Americans are waiting for the FSB KGB network in Moldova and Romania to put me in prison. And at the same time, the Americans working for the FSB KGB will do everything possible, together with the FSB KGB network in Moldova and Romania, to destroy me financially, to use algorithms so that I don't have views on Facebook and on YouTube and TikTok. I am convinced of one thing, that the Americans, as well as the Moldovans and Romanians, will do absolutely everything to prevent me from passing the polygraph test, and at the same time, they will use all resources to destroy me financially, mentally, and physically. The FSB KGB network in Moldova and Romania must save the FSB KGB network in America, the Americans who work for the FSB KGB. I am ready to pass the polygraph test, that I have never worked and am not working for any intelligence service. No one has the right or had the right to record me or film me or sign on my behalf, and I have never ever earned money from such activities. When I write anyone, this means that everyone without any exception. I am also ready to pass the polygraph test because I am not a volunteer, that I'm not gay, that I am not a terrorist, that I didn't have and I don't have an apartment or a car, that I have never had sexual relations with a Polish woman, that I don't have children, that I am not a member of Freemasonry. Plop Andrei, I am sure that by the end of this year one of two things will happen. First, the FSB KGB network in Moldova, Romania, Poland, and the United States will be imprisoned for corruption and espionage in favor of the Russians. Now, who are these Russian spies? All Romanians and Moldovans, all without exception, who followed me in Poland back in 2017 when I requested political asylum, and who obviously collaborated with the Poles, all without exception. You should also add to this the Romanians and Moldovans, again, all without exception, who followed me in Canada and who are still afraid that I will pass the polygraph test. Or second, they will do everything possible to put me in prison without me passing the polygraph test. And the strangest thing is that the FSB KGB network in these countries is waiting for the help of the Russians, who are obviously also part of the FSB KGB network. They will do everything possible to put me in a psychiatric hospital. They will continue to do everything possible to isolate me and to destroy me financially and morally. I have also written what the FSB KGB network in Moldova and Romania, Poland, and the United States is waiting for, that the Russians provoke me, and that these moments be filmed by the FSB KGB network in Moldova. Thus, the FSB KGB network in Moldova will be promoted in their careers as if they had caught a Russian spy. And for this, the entire FSB KGB network in Moldova, Romania, Poland, and the United States will be promoted. If the Russians do not make these provocations, then the FSB KGB network in Moldova will do it. So, why did the FSB KGB network in America, Americans working for the Russians, block my Facebook and YouTube pages so that I wouldn't make money, and why did they continue to block me and will continue to block me so that I wouldn't make money like on YouTube? The answer is very simple. The Americans, who work for the Russians, the FSB KGB network in America, as well as the FSB KGB network in Moldova, Romania, and Poland, wanted to destroy me financially and then for me to leave for Russia, or Turkey. Then, they, the FSB KGB network in Moldova, Romania, Poland, and the United States, were to declare that I fled to Russia, or Turkey, because I was a Russian or Turkish spy, and they, the FSB KGB network in Moldova, Romania, Poland, and the United States were to be promoted in their careers as if they had discovered a Russian spy. That was their plan, and it still is. That's why the FSB KGB network in America is afraid that I will pass the polygraph test. Because they are Russian spies. Russia got rid of an enemy like me, Plop Andrei, who is or was a good analyst in the former Soviet space, and thus the Russians won twice. They got a good analyst and got rid of an enemy, and the FSB KGB network in Moldova, Romania, Poland, and the United States was to be promoted in their careers. The Americans, you are still afraid that I will pass the polygraph test. There is not one of them who is honest in counterintelligence services. Americans, are you still afraid that I will pass the polygraph test?